Now, why am I saying so much about this? Because we need to know that the covenant is not based on you and your performance. Because if it were, it would have been annulled a long time ago. Because, and I hope I don't, I don't want to make anybody feel bad, but no matter who you are, no matter who I am, my performance is not perfect. I have some failures, and I might in the future. See, it's not even good enough to say, well, I've got some failures in the past, but I'm going to try to do better tomorrow, which I am. I want to do better all the time. I always want to, but the reality is, and I won't use you, I'll use me. The reality is, I am pretty sure that sometime in the future, maybe tomorrow, maybe today, I hate to say, I might do something wrong. Is that conceivable? You're looking at me like, no, not you. Yes, it's true. And I don't want to, I don't want to make you feel bad, but you might too. It's possible. You might violate your conscience. You might say something that you later say, I shouldn't have said that. Anybody ever done that? You might do something that you might later say, immediately sometimes, I shouldn't have done it. Why do we do it? You know why we do it? Because we are living in a body of flesh, and sometimes, many times, it gets the better of us. It's not good that it does, but it does. Maybe I'm being too real about it. I just want you to know that this... Why am I telling you this? Because this does not annul this covenant. Because the covenant was not made between God and you, saying if you do perfect, if you do everything right, then you have my favor. But if you ever mess up, buddy, you're gone. When I first became a Christian, this church wasn't here, obviously, and I wasn't here doing this because when I first became a Christian, I didn't know anybody that was saying the things I'm saying to you today. It would have helped me a lot if someone would have said to me the things that I'm saying to you today. Because what I thought when I first became a Christian is God saves us sort of on probation. Sort of gives us a second chance. Now see if you can do better. And the frustrating fact was, as days and months and years went by, I would look back and say, well, I don't know. I mean, I might have done a little better, but I've still had a lot of mistakes. I've still had a lot of failures. And I thought the more and more those accumulated, the worse and worse I was messing it up. It took me a long time to figure out and to find the things I'm sharing with you today. This new covenant that we're a part of is not established by me and between me and God. It's between my representative, Jesus. And my participation in it is based on one simple thing. He took the cup and He gave it to them, saying, drink ye all of it. Because not just the communion, but what it represents. Because I accept. Because I believe in what Jesus did for me. Now, next verse. What's in the cup that He gives us to receive? This is my blood. Notice, He did it. He shed the blood. He doesn't ask us to do it. He did it for us. My blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many. That's us. He did it for us. Listen, for the remission of sins. Now that's the fundamental fact of what he's saying here. I shed my blood for one specific fundamental fact above all others. Everything else is secondary. For the remission of sins. Now this word remission is such a religious sounding word. I looked it up in the dictionary. Webster's dictionary says, from the discharge from penalty, debt, or obligation. It means the discharge. That means discharge from the penalty, debt, or obligation. It means you're released from the penalty, debt, or obligations that are incurred by sin. You're freely released. Now notice, he doesn't say, please think with me now, he doesn't say, if you do X, Y, and Z, I'll consider letting you go from the penalty. He says, no, this is my blood of the New Testament, and I have shed my blood to discharge you. Notice he did it all. All he asks us to do is accept that. All he asks us to do is take it, receive it, take it. We do need to do that, by the way. See, sometimes people go to an extreme and say, well, then everybody can just disregard God and just go their way because everyone is... No, we've got to... Individuals have to take it and receive it. And thank God, like you said earlier, thank God we are those who have taken it and received it. But He wants us to know, because we are those people who believe in it, we have been discharged forever from the penalty from those sins. Now go back to Hebrews chapter 8 again. Let me finish reading this. Verse 10. Let's go on reading. I went back to Matthew to establish in your mind the fact that Jesus said, this is it. This is the covenant. I'm doing it. It's between God and Jesus. Verse 10. And he described, listen how he describes it. This is the covenant I will make, this new covenant, with the house of Israel in those days, saith the Lord. Listen now. I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts. Well, what is he alluding to? Well, in the Old Testament that he's comparing it to, His laws were written in tables of stone, and they were physical, and they were external. But he says this one is so much better because now I'm going to write it in the minds of those who receive it, and in their hearts. What's the difference? Well, if it's written on the outside, you look at it and say, I need to try to live up to that. But if it's written on the inside, there's something on the inside that motivates you. Not only to meet the letter of the law, but to go beyond it, you see, and to do more. It's the very nature and life of Christ on the inside. That's what it means. This is a metaphorical way of saying, I'm going to put inside of you something different. I'm going to put a new nature on the inside of you. And not only will you not want to murder your neighbor, you're likely to lay your life down for your neighbor. And not only will you not steal from your neighbor, but the life on the inside will motivate you to give to your neighbor. You see, I will put my nature. I will put my laws, my nature in their mind, and write them in their hearts. And I will be to them a God, and they will be to me a people. And why is this? Because of what He does. Notice He says, I will do it, and therefore it will be. Verse 11. They shall not teach every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, you need to know the Lord. That's kind of what that means. Know the Lord, for all shall know me. What does all mean? That means everybody. That means you and me. That means you. You shall know Him. All shall know Him, from the least to the greatest. Now, you might be like I was describing myself when I was starting out as a Christian. Felt like the least of the least. You know, I looked around at everybody, and everybody looked so holy and so righteous. And I thought, I'm the only one that's messing things up. Everybody else has got this thing figured out. Until I got to know people a little better. From the least, but I felt like the least. That's what I was going to say. Great comfort to me to read this verse. From the least to the greatest, whoever that might be. They'll all know me, he says. Now, the next verse starts with the word for. Do you see the word for? Think about what that word for means in this verse. For. We could substitute the word because. Because what? They'll all know me. Everybody will, all these participants in this new covenant, God says, will all know me intimately, individually, in a close way, in a experiential way. They shall all know me. Verse 12 says, for this reason, because of this, he singles this out as the reason, the single factor for. Listen, I will be merciful to their unrighteousness and their sins and iniquities. What about them? I will remember no more. Oh, how could he dare say that? Because he's already done something about our sins and iniquities. Jesus said, this is my blood of the New Testament, the New Covenant, shed for the remission of sins. Notice he did that. When he shed his blood on the cross, God considered that our sins and iniquities, the remission, the penalty has been paid for them. And so for these recipients, for us, of this new covenant, their sins and iniquities I'll remember no more. Now what does this have to do with us knowing Him? Did you know that the only thing that is a barrier between a person knowing God is their own conscience of sin, their own conscience of not having lived it, our own consciousness of unworthiness.